What if I told you that you could save 30, 60, 90 minutes on a race just by being more efficient at aid station? In an ultramarathon, aid station is your beacon of hope. That's the goal you should always aim towards, which is reaching the next aid station where you'll be able to take care of yourself, regroup, get stronger, and get back out there. But it can also be a huge waste of time. So you need to be very efficient, do what you have to do, and get back out there. Today I want to share my top tips on how to have productive aid station stop during ultramarathon. Hi, Simon here. Welcome to my channel. On my channel, you can follow my adventure as I race 100-mile ultramarathon on average every month for a third year in a row. I provide also a lot of tips video to get you out there and have your own adventure. Today we talk about aid station. Aid station is one of the big difference compared to road running or road marathon, where you will have something that I would describe more as a feed station. Every 1 or 2 miles you can get water, Gatorade, maybe a banana, but you don't necessarily stop. You grab it and you go. In an ultra marathon, it's very different. Distance between aid stations are typically longer. Time between aid stations is much longer. Sometimes you will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours between aid stations. And these aid stations are critical to be able to keep going. It can also waste or save you hours during a race. Cutting down time that you spend there, even if it's just by a few minutes, is essential for all runners, not just the pro who need to get in and out as quickly as possible, but also mid-pack runner and people that are borderline with cutoff. Those few minutes add up, and at the end of a 100-mile, it can easily account for 2, 3, 4 hours on a 100-mile ultramarathon, and that can easily be the difference between you achieving your goal or a DNF. Because what else can you do to save 2 hours? 2 hours is a huge amount of time. And just by being more organized, just by being more efficient, you can save that time, which is much more accessible and much quicker to get that time as opposed to just running faster. Running faster, sure, try if you can, but there's a limit that you can do there. Whereas if you're just organized, you know what you're doing at aid station, and importantly, you're not forgetting anything, that's something you can do, and that's something I want to teach you today.
Zach Miller.
Alors Zach Miller d'abord.
Zach Miller, voilà, il va aller voir Sergi.
So let's get to the core concept here. You're on trail, you're in the wild is hostile to you, and that aid station is where you will get what you need to keep going. That's true for fluid, that's true for fueling, that's true also for gear. And these aid stations can be pretty far apart, so you need to get what you need. It's not like a road marathon where if you miss a feed station, well, it's okay, you have another one in a mile. And beyond getting what you need at an aid station, you need to take care of yourself. You're doing a very difficult physical effort. That time at the aid station can help you feel better, can help you dig yourself out of this hole. And we're talking about drinking, eating, but also sometimes it's very cold, if it's raining. Take care of yourself, take care of your body. But the last important concept is don't waste your time. Take all the time you need at the aid station. This is the most important. Don't forget anything. Do what you need to do, but do it as quickly as possible. If you can save a minute, save a minute. If you can eat while walking out of the aid station, do that instead of sitting down. Save time because it will add up.
All right.
Okay.
Let's go.
Thank you for.
That was okay. Yep.
So my tip for aid station is that the easiest way to not forget anything is to have a routine. That you're always more or less gonna do the same thing in the same sequence, as opposed to just randomly doing things and then, oops, you forgot to fill your bottle. If you have a routine, it's gonna be much easier. And there's various type of aid station stuff. So we'll talk first about the kind of routine aid station, the one that is just an average normal aid station. So the first thing I do when I arrive is getting what I need for the next segment. That's always the mindset. Get what you need first, then I'll take care of myself. What does it mean? Step number 1, I need to refill my bottle. Going on a segment, especially in the middle of the day, especially in the desert, if you don't have the fluid, You forget one time, that can be enough to lead to a DNF. Severe dehydration is a thing and it's hard to get out of that hole. So make sure that you're replenishing your fluid. Step number 2, I'm gonna take out the trash I have. And when I do that, I will look at what I've eaten on the trail. It's easy to kind of mix it up sometimes, like how much did I eat? Well, now I'm taking all of the wrappers out. It's like, okay, I had 3 gels, 1 applesauce on a segment that was maybe 2 hours. Okay, that seems pretty reasonable. You trash that. And now that I know exactly what I ate, I can either decide to take just as many as I've eaten, or if I know the distance and the time that I'm gonna be on trail for the next segment, I can adjust accordingly. What can I eat? What can I carry? Let's put that in my vest before doing anything else. And now since we're talking about the routine aid station, I'll stop here. But if it's a special aid station, that's where I would insert the special element, and we'll talk about that later. Once I've taken care of getting everything I need for the next segment, now we move to taking care of myself. And a good routine here is that I always try to drink something at an aid station, and I always try to eat something. It won't always be the same quantity, it won't always be the same, but I don't let myself have the option of just not taking anything. I'm at an aid station, I will drink something and I will eat something. And if I want to save time, I'm just going to take them and go away with that. But sometimes it's helpful to have something that is solid, and sometimes it's helpful to rest a little bit to get warmer, especially at night. But then the big question is, should I sit down? And that's a tricky one. As much as possible, I think you should avoid sitting down, because when we sit down at an aid station, a stop that would be potentially 2 minutes, 3 minutes will quickly become a stop of 10, 15 minutes. Might not sound like much to take 10 more minutes at an aid station when you have a race for 30 hours, but do that 20 times. 10 minutes times 20 is 200. That's more than 3 hours just sitting down. So my take on that is that it's totally fine to use the chair, but only if needed, only if you really struggle to stand on your feet. So basically minimizing the use of the chair, but if you need it, use it. Sometimes it's the best investment in terms of time. If you're gonna spend some time at the aid station, it's really good to not be standing too much. But as soon as you've taken care of yourself, as soon as you start feeling better, and people that have seen me at aid station will hear me say it at some time, especially if I'm dragging a little bit, it's I need to get out, I need to get out, I need to get out there. So at some point you just feel it. You feel like I've gotten what I need, now I need to get out. So that's kind of the baseline for me when it comes to a routine aid station, a normal aid station. But there are particularity with aid station that would make them special aid station. The first one is this an aid station where you can have a crew or not? Or more importantly, do you have a crew or not at that aid station? I mean, if other people have a crew and you don't, I mean, that's a different story, but is there a crew? And if you have a crew at an aid station, what is really helpful, and I'll make a video about how to crew a race and how to work with a crew, it's good to pre-plan what you will do. The danger when you are by yourself is that it's easy to forget things. So having a crew is not just about them doing things for you, but it's also that they are hopefully a little bit more awake than you are. So they can notice things like, hey, did you fill your water or not? But they can also do it for you. So of course you need to communicate that with your crew, because ultimately the responsibility, even if you have a head crew that should be doing certain things, it's on the runner. You need to make sure that you have what you will need. But if they know they need to take your bottle, refill them, then what you can do in the meantime is you go down, you sit down, potentially you change your socks, you do these things while they're getting the food for you, while they're talking to you, while they're giving you information. And the reminders can be from the crew. They know they have to tell you, don't forget your headlamp. That's their responsibility, but don't lose track of what are they supposed to do, because ultimately, if you're out there in the middle of the night without a headlamp, even if it was their mistake, you're the one in trouble. Another special aid station would be an aid station where potentially you have a drop bag. So instead of a crew, you have a drop bag. And the drop bag, the use, I'll make a full video about how to use drop bags, but it really depends on how you are yourself planning your race and how you are yourself using drop bags. Personally, I don't use them that much. I rely on them a lot, but not at a lot of aid station. It's mostly when I have to do something special, when I need to get new gear. But when it comes to food or drinks or these things, I rely on the aid station, not on my drop bag. But having a drop bag really helps you adapt to the situation. if there is a significant change in the type of trail that you'll be facing, you can get the right gear. For example, when I was at Tour des Géants, we were not running in the snow for most of the race, but at some point there was snow, and because of these winter conditions, it was good to take micro spikes. I don't need to carry them the whole way. That drop bag aid station was a point where I could refit my kind of kit to be better adapted to the situation that is going to come. Because one of the big or very special aid station stop that will happen at every race, if you race 100 mile, would be what I would call the transition from day to night and then potentially from night to day. But the day to night transition is probably one of the most important because conditions are changing drastically. It used to be really hot, you were in the sun, and now we're gonna go in the dark. I have a video about how to run at night, how to run in the dark. This day to night transition, it should match an aid station with a drop bag or with the crew because you need new gear. The gear you'll need will be warm clothing. Potentially if it was hot during the day but it's going to be cold at night, you might want to change. You might want to remove your shirt that is wet, take something that is dry that's going to help you through the night. Get your headlamp, get a backup battery. Make sure that you have these things because that transition, if you forget one of these things, one of those equipment, could absolutely ruin your race. So the most planned aid station that you should have that is not routine anymore is that one. On the flip side, in the morning, you might have an aid station that will be after sunrise where you switch to the day. That one is not as big of a transition. Typically, it's much more about removing layers. I might just be carrying my stuff with me until the finish line. Sometimes it's not a big hurdle. But if you want to lose some weight, it can be a good idea to just, you don't need that headlamp anymore. You're going to be done before night. You don't need that puffy jacket anymore. You leave them in a drop bag. The drop bag was potentially almost empty, and now you fill it up. Discover really the basic routine stuff and also the major exceptional aid station. But there's a few other things that you might want to plan during your race in terms of aid station that will not come every time, but you have flexibility as to where it happens. And these are tips that comes from a lot of experience. Not everyone is doing that, but I think for me, it's helping me a lot to be more productive on trail, to be more efficient, to move better, and it's worth the time investment. The first one is to have a toothbrush and potentially some floss in one of your drop bags somewhere or your crew. When you eat so much sugar, at some point it just gets really kind of gross and it can even lead to nausea. Sometimes if you struggle with food, keeping down food, brushing and flossing just feels so refreshing. If Courtney has the time to stop at an aid station to brush and still beat the record, I think you can take that time. Personally, I think it makes a big difference and it's such a small time investment. It's logistic to think about, well, where should it be? Personally, I like to do that in the morning after 24 hours, and if I can have two spots where I do that, it will be the first evening and then the morning afterwards. That's when I feel the grossest. With the other thing that might be pretty important to do is taking care of your feet. Especially if you struggle a lot with blisters, sometimes just changing your socks will make a huge difference. Taking time to remove your socks, dry your feet a little bit, potentially tape them, new socks, get going. But if you have problems with blisters, potentially that could solve your issue. Anyone who's run with blisters knows just how painful it can be. And if you have to continue on your blisters for 40, 50 miles, it's really painful. If you can resolve that by just stopping and changing your socks, absolutely worth it. I don't always do that. In fact, I only rarely do that, but there will be situations where I feel this is needed. That's particularly true in races. For example, in the desert, I'll be sweating more, my socks will be humid, and that humidity will just make the skin a little bit more sensitive. The other polar opposite of that situation is any race where it's raining or you're river crossing or there's a lot of snow. The ideal time to do that, of course, would be if it was wet, you had some river crossing, but you will not have any more river crossing afterwards. That's the best time to change your shoes, change your socks. An example of that would be, for example, at Zion 100 mile, we cross a river at something like mile 50 and then again at mile, I think, 70. But there's no more river after that. So I will change my socks and my shoes at mile 70 after that river. And the final thing I think is sometimes helpful is sleeping, taking time to sleep. If the race is shorter, I don't necessarily recommend it, but for 100 mile, especially if you're pushing in the 30, 36 hour, it's difficult to stay awake all that time. Potentially you can do it, but sometimes taking a 15-minute, 20-minute nap will just give you back a lot of energy. And that time that you invested sleeping, you will feel better. And because you're feeling better, you will run faster and you will make back that time. And it's especially true for longer races. I've done two 200-mile plus race, Cocodona 250 and Tour des Géants. And both races, they took me 4 and 5 days respectively. There's no way you're not going to sleep during that period of time, but I think it's worth taking that extra time. And I could really see the difference where some people would just slowly crumble and kind of their fitness and their ability to move on trail was just going down and down and down and down. Whereas I was taking a little bit more time to sleep. That extra 20-30 minutes made a huge difference. Sometimes we would arrive at the aid station having the same pace for a few miles, get at the aid station at the same time. I would choose to sleep or choose to sleep a little longer, whereas they decide to press on. So they're long gone by the time I wake up and I get going. But sometimes within 2 or 3 miles, that 30 minutes is gone, poof, because I catch up to them and then I'm much faster and I never see them again. And that's all about taking care of yourself. So understanding, am I just being lazy, sleepy, or would that sleep help me kind of recover a little bit and regroup? Before sleeping, eat and drink a bunch, sleep, and before leaving, eat and drink again. It's kind of you're doubling down the calories that you're taking, and while you're sleeping, your digestion will be a little bit better. In conclusion, aid stations are a critical part of becoming an ultra runner. Understanding what you need, taking care of business, doing these things efficiently. There are things you need to take care of yourself, but also they're a huge trap. Don't waste your time there. Take all the time you need, but nothing more, not a second more. Save that time. Every minute counts. Yeah, sure, it doesn't feel like it when you're racing for 30, 36 hours. What's 1 minute? But when you're factoring how many aid stations there are, even just saving 1, 2, 3 minutes per aid station will make a huge difference. 30 minutes, 60 minutes. So make sure to be efficient. And the best way to be efficient is knowing what you need ahead of time. Have your routine, know what you need, go get it, and get out of there. I hope this video was helpful. If you appreciate it, please leave a thumbs up. That is helping me create content. I'm curious in the comments below, what are your strategy at aid station to be efficient but make sure that you have everything you need? If you find this video helpful, please share with your friends. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.